So remember how the vision started. John he hears Jesus first. He hears his voice. Then John says, then I turned to see the voice that was speaking with me. And after turning, here's what he saw. I saw 7 golden lampstands. And in the middle of the lampstands, I saw one like a son of man, clothed in a robe reaching to the feet and wrapped around the chest with a golden sash. His head and his hair were white like white wool, like snow. And his eyes were like a flame of fire. His feet were like burnished bronze when it has been heated to a glow in a furnace. And his voice was like the sound of many waters. In his right hand he held 7 stars, and out of his mouth came a sharp 2-edged sword, and his face was like the sun shining in its strength. So, wow, wow, wow. So this is John seeing his best friend Jesus again. Now, remember, the earliest this could have been was 11 years after Jesus had left. Probably it was more like 30 or 35 years after Jesus had ascended back to heaven. So John, I believe, was the closest disciple to Jesus when Jesus was on the earth. John refers to himself in the Gospels as the disciple that Jesus loved. And I think it's very clear that he definitely was, he was one of the inner circle for sure. I believe he was his best friend. And now here he gets to see him again after all these years. Isn't that amazing? Just think what that might have been like. Now he is seeing Jesus in his glorified form. And so that was a very scary thing. But John has seen Jesus in his glorified form before, because remember when John, Peter, and James went with Jesus up to the top of the mountain, they saw Jesus transfigured before them into his glorified form. So he probably looked just like this. So now it is very interesting to note, this is the only description that we have of what Jesus looked like in the entire Bible. We do not get a description of what he looked like in the Gospels when he was actually on earth. The only description we have is right here in his glorified form. And I think that's very significant. This is who Jesus is right now. So, it's very, very, very exciting. Okay. So I want to show you some, let's see. Yeah. Okay. Let me go back. Don't look at that yet. I want to show you some artist renditions of what they think Jesus might have looked like in this vision. Okay, we have our description. So here's what some artists think that might have looked like. Now, there's a lot of very weird, awkward pictures. And so I'm going to show you a bunch. And I'm going to start with the worst ones first, okay? So this should be fun. All right. So a lot of the artists who are trying to imagine what this might have looked like, they really struggle with this image of the sword coming out of Jesus's mouth. And so you will find a lot of these really, really awkward images like this with this, guy looks like he's being choked by this sword. So I don't think it looked exactly like this. Of course, this is an older image. So this is the most awkward one I'm going to show you. So when you can see John there, looks like he is snoozing away, like maybe he was having a dream instead of a vision. And you can see the lampstands, the stars in Jesus's hands. Okay, so let's look at some others. So here's another one, kind of an older image. And you can see how this artist is dealing with the sword. It's just kind of hanging out there on the side of Jesus's face. We see the 7 lampstands. We see John snoozing away again, and the stars. Okay, here's a couple more. Now, I like this one a lot better. Okay, finally, John is awake. He's not snoozing anymore. He's actually having a vision. And we see this Jesus looks a lot more powerful. And you can see the sword here in the way that the artist handled that. And I think this looks a lot less awkward. Okay. And so I did a little reading to what do people think about this sword? What was going on here? I did see some people suggest that maybe it wasn't an actual sword, but that maybe John was describing the way that the words that Jesus said were piercing like a sword. Now, I don't believe that, because Jesus told him to write what you see. John was recording what he saw. So I think he saw a sword. What it looked like, I have no idea. So, but that is one artist rendition right here. And let's look at a few more. So this one's interesting. You see that sword just hanging out to the side there. And on this one, the artist chose to use a menorah instead of the 7 different lampstands. Now, I think it's clear from the text that it was 7 different lampstands, but this is just an interesting interpretation. Of course, the menorah is a candle, a holy, sacred candle holder in the Jewish faith. So I thought that was an interesting interpretation. All right, so now here we get to the good-looking Jesus. So looking like Sean Connery here with the really nice hair and the great tan. Okay, so this is our Sean Connery Jesus, and we see those lampstands looking really powerful, and he's very serious, and he's holding these stars. So I personally really like this one. This is the Jesus with the Farrah Fawcett hairdo, and so here he is holding the stars. Now this artist, let's see, what did the last one do? Yeah, so this artist and then this one, they decided just, you know what, forget that sword. That sword is too weird, so they don't even try to deal with it at all. And understandably, this one is cool. This one is one of my favorites. It looks kind of like anime, and so I think that this artist made the sword, come out of his mouth, but he did it in a way that looks super cool. So I really like this one. I wanted to show, this is one of my favorites. So he's got everything there. He's got the lampstands. He even has, later, as you'll see in the next section that I read, that he says that Jesus holds the keys to Hades, and you can see the keys there on his sash. So I love this one. All right, this one is kind of scary and creepy. I actually really like it. I like the image. But I don't know that Jesus would look like one of the ghosts of Christmas. So anyway, very, very interesting. And you can see how the artist dealt with the sword coming out of his mouth there. It's kind of transparent. So I think that works a lot better. Okay, so now what I want to show you, here's one more. I want to show you my two favorite pictures. And those are right here. Yeah, so this one, I really like this one. I like this one. Okay, so the artist did tackle the sword, okay? And you can see that coming out of his mouth is kind of transparent. But I really like the look on his face. His eyes are very piercing. So I like that. I think that I really like the feeling of this one. And my very, very favorite one is right here. I love this. Now, this artist didn't deal with the sword, but I love the feeling of this. It's majestic. It's regal. It's powerful. It looks like God, the Son of God, instead of just some man standing there.